to Manfred, to our representative in the European Parliament, to support the Erasmus program, because now more than ever, seeing what's going on in the world, we need the European community. And the Erasmus program is the only program of the European Union who actually help the new generation and new students feeling European, discovering more about our union and supporting it. So I really hope that the EPP group should work for this. The next months will be crucial for this, because the MEPs will vote for the next European budgets. So there is a lot on the stake, and I really ask our representatives to support us. This is a concrete way to help us, the students of the EPP, and the young people of Europe in general. A second thing I would like to discuss with you is the Horizon program. FP10 is this framework program that will be voted as well in the next months. Is incredibly important for researchers and PhDs. And we need to be more brave. We need to have more courage in such a moment where a lot of researchers and postdoc are moving to the US and to Canada. Why? Because salaries are better, because companies are paying them more. So let's take the chance of this framework program to be voted by the European Parliament to invest more in the students. There are so many issues that are leading our students away, far away from Europe, and we need to find a way, a courageous and brave way to try to stop this brain drain. And I really think that, for example, in France, there are very good examples. In Paris, when it comes to housing, for example, that is another very important topic that we should discuss today. There is a public support that goes up to 900 euros per student that goes to study in cities where housing prices and rent are impossible to afford for many students. So let's try to understand which are the issues. I mentioned 3 of them right now, and let's try to invest more in the students, because we really need for Europe someone who tells us, you worth something, we want to invest on you, and stay here, please. Don't leave for the US and for Canada. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Kagler. As we know, citizens across Europe, particularly member states such as Spain and Ireland, are struggling to afford housing. Urbanization and economic factors such as reflection as well as demographic development has exacerbated the housing market in many cities. While there was a negative impact on rural areas, such as, for example, decreases in investment in critical infrastructure, what do demographic changing and immigration means for development of rural areas?
Thank you, Patricia, for asking this question. And I want to say thank you to EPP for taking up the issue. People have said that demographic development is like a ticking bomb, and the consequences will be more and more visible over the next years and decades. So I'm very grateful that we are having this panel. I would also like to say a greeting from the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly EPP group. Our group is called EPP and Like-Minded. At the Parliamentary Assembly of OSCE, we are the largest group, and we are still growing in strength and our coordination. So it's very meaningful, and 11 of us are here today. Now, to your question. We know that our birth rates are at record lows. So since 1975, we have been below reproduction rates. And at the moment, it is 1.38 in the European Union. Now, this obviously affects rural areas. It also affects urban areas, but rural areas are more strongly affected. And a second scenario is that young people tend to gravitate to cities. So what do we have to do in rural areas? We have to keep them attractive. Yes, there is more affordable housing and larger housing, but then we also need to make sure that there's infrastructure for the people to do meaningful things, like employers, for example. Sometimes we say, and you asked this, Patricia, immigration will solve the problem. But also immigrants tend to go into the cities. And also immigration on the long run cannot be the full compensation for the birth gap that we experience, because there'll be fewer qualified migrants. There is a brain drain problem, as we have heard. So there's a number of issues related to this. We need qualified migration, but we cannot say that this will solve the problem entirely. So rural areas have already become, in some parts of Europe, deserted. We already see depopulation. We already see problems. So what can we do? Commissioner Suica, who is here with us on stage, has published a toolbox that gives very good ideas how to create sustainable infrastructure, how to make sure that there is administrative services that are remote, to make sure that there is sufficient internet for people to do meaningful things in these areas. But I also think we should invest in community building. If people become fewer, they need to be more closely connected. That is things that we can inspire, but then the people need to do them. So demographic decline brings lots of challenges. I'm so glad that now we are talking about it. I'm so glad EPP is taking it up, and as we heard from the previous speakers, we are ready to take on responsibility, and this really is key for taking on responsibility for the future of Europe.
Thank you, Mr. Berghammer. The ESU, European Senior Union, has strongly advocated for lifelong active aging. As we live longer in Europe, it's necessary to ensure that there is a high quality of life of all citizens at all stages. EPP once again has the Commissioner responsible for demography, Dubravka Šuica. In this mandate, part of her portfolio is the implementation of the demography toolbox across the member states. Can you share with us your thoughts on this toolbox approach?
Yeah, thank you. I'm very pleased that we are having today this discussion about demographic change, not only because it's a very important challenge for the future, but today, April 29th, it's also the 16th European Day of Solidarity between Generations. And such a day that's a wake-up call and highlights the role that interconnection between generations have to play in building a sustainable society for all of us. And when you ask me what need older people to play an active role in society, well, I have to tell you, to have the opportunity to play an active role in society, people of all generations have the same needs, the same interests, common goals. The need for a safe social environment and good social protection, a sufficient high income, quality and accessible healthcare, accessible and affordable housing, gender equality, combating ageism, and regarding well-being, we have to spend special attention for all generations, for loneliness, for social exclusion, and mental health. And all these challenges require cross-generational understanding and solutions. So we have to reject the false dichotomy, the false split between youth and seniors. And it is a bit strange to note that in the family sphere, there is a lot of dialogue, solidarity, and in the public environment, it is so much less. So we need a comprehensive approach. And as my colleague said, the demography toolbox launched by our Vice President and Commissioner Dubravka Šuica is a good instrument. And why it's a good instrument? That toolbox makes the cross connections between the different generations, between the different policy areas, and all the political levels, and that in connection with the civil society. And that's the way that we have to go. We need to build further on this comprehensive approach, and we welcome that Ursula von der Leyen has decided for the competence of demography, it again entrust to our Commissioner, Dubravka Šuica, to implement the toolbox, and that's important. So we hope that the EU will continue to develop a new vision on aging, one that moves away from ageism and seeing older age as burden, but instead facilitates the contribution of seniors to society.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Zaharaki. The importance of the demography has been made clear already in this panel. There is, however, no one size fits-all approach across the EU. So on the topic of the demography toolbox, and with your specific experience in national government, how can both the member states and the EU ensure that decisions are made at the appropriate levels while also making the most of the advantages of the diversity of member states?
So first of all, thank you, PP, for bringing us here, and of course, Partido Popular for the organization today. All the delegations and the delegates that are here today, not just for theory, because I truly feel that what we've heard from the speakers of the panel has been very concrete ideas and measures on how to boost different levels of decision-making. In Greece, we have taken stock of this very thorough, meticulous work that has been compiled by Vice President Dubrovka-Suica, then Commissioner for Demography. It was the first ever toolbox, and it wasn't a prescriptive one. So, number one, reply to your question. We don't provide one-size-fits-all solutions. We try to trigger it down to every society, the regional and local level, and I greet today the presence of mayors and regional leaders that can make a change in order to be able to apply very local policies and be able to combat, of course, this depopulation and the desert rural areas that we see in places like Greece. Now, the numbers in Greece are discouraging. Fertility rate at 1.32, every year constantly falling, and of course, many people over 65, but also room for possibility. And I would say that this toolbox has allowed us to be able to deploy very important local policy. Let me be more concrete. 20 billion euro over 10-year strategy, one national toolbox, the first one compiled by a member state right after the publication of the European toolbox, and now we are actually strategizing for 13 regional toolboxes, 13 regional action plans on demography, in order to be more region-specific. So I would say that the question is bringing it down to the people. They make the decision what is suitable for them, how we create jobs on a regional level for young people in order to be able to stay, to have the freedom to stay where they wish to start the family should they wish to, the volume and the level they would like, of course, to deploy, and to be able to age at the area when they wish to. Just a final note, because I was very much interested in your remarks. In Greece, we're trying to get the elderly back to work. So we have introduced a reintroduction to work, and hundreds of thousands of people have already taken the possibility to go back. We're now compiling a new strategy on long-term care, using the TSI by the European Commission. At the same time, we are launching large-scale financial literacy as well as digital skills seminars for our elderly compatriots, while not forgetting, of course, the large importance of work-life balance, of having more children into preschool and allowing their parents with more parental leave. We have now increased the months of maternal leave, and of course fathers can take some of that to 9 months. It is one of the largest in the European level. So, of course, some guidelines by the toolbox. We very much, as I said, admire and respected the work done, but then analyzing, make it more country-specific, region-specific, municipality-specific.
Thank you, Mr. Minister Zaharaki, and thank you all, Ms. Viro, Sismondi, Evercarmel, Krugal. Thank you for your opinions, for participation in this panel of demography. We have closed, we have finished this panel. Thank you for you again, and thank you for the audience.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear delegates, it's my pleasure to yield the floor to our last speakers, who are from leaders of our European Union. So let's welcome to the stage the Federal Chancellor of Austria, Mr. Christian Stocker. Let's welcome.
Dear President of the European People's Party, dear Manfred, dear President of the European Commission, dear Ursula, dear President of the European Parliament, dear Roberta, dear colleagues and friends. It's a pleasure and honor for me to speak to you today as Federal Chancellor of Austria and new Chairman of the Austrian People's Party. This is a very special day for me, and I have seen quite a number of special days over these last few months. If someone had told me on New Year's Eve that I would come to Valencia as leader of the ÖVP and Federal Chancellor, I would have declared that person insane. Or, as my father put it, our local soccer team is more likely to win the Champions League than you are to become Chancellor. Well, he was proven wrong, at least in one respect. Our soccer team is still playing in the district league. But who knows, life is full of surprises, and I have learned to expect the unexpected, particularly over these last few weeks and months. So I decided to take responsibility and take this path together with my friends in the Austrian People's Party, many of whom are also here today. Thank you for being here with me. What we have also witnessed is that extremes in politics are on the rise, posing ever more challenges, both in Austria and across Europe and the world. These developments have made one thing very clear. In times such these, our People's Party is needed more than ever. Unlike all other political groups, we identify and address problems, always tackling them within the framework of our principles and values. Whereas the left doesn't want to see the problems, and the right doesn't want to solve the problems. Dear colleagues and friends, these recent government negotiations had dragged on for 5 months, the longest period in Austrian history. Had not been for us, Austria would have fallen in chaos and might be preparing for new elections right now. We were fully aware of our responsibility. This also included negotiations with the Freedom Party. I was harshly criticized for taking this step, but we knew that we had to act to prevent chaos. From the very beginning, however, I had made it very clear that we would never deviate from our principles and values. Protection of the rules of law, human rights, freedom of the press, rights of minorities, and our firm place at the heart of the European Union were non-negotiable. We all know how it ended. The FPÖ was unable to meet these conditions. Dear friends, the times are turbulent wherever we look. What is therefore needed? More than ever is a powerful, strong, and confident, reliable European Union, its strength, its unity, its shared values. Because the challenges we are facing today are far too complex to be managed alone. Only together we will be able to safeguard our prosperity and competitiveness. Only together we will be able to address climate change, the challenges of irregular migration or terrorism. Only together we will be able to respond resolutely to Russia's aggression against Ukraine and contribute to a just and lasting peace. Let's never forget that unity is our greatest power. But one thing is also clear. We must turn words into deeds. Enormous challenges lie ahead, challenges to be addressed and solved. First, migration, irregular migration, must be stopped once and for all. Although we have made significant progress in these last few months, far too many irregular migrants are still making it into the EU every single day. But we are finally on the right track. Also thanks to the European Commission and especially the Commissioner Magnus Brunner, who is running for EPP Vice President. Magnus Brunner is the essential driving force behind these new, more appropriate approaches in the EU migration policy. With him, the EPP can ensure that we make progress on managing migration. May I use this opportunity to ask you to support his candidacy. Thank you. The second key topic is Europe's competitiveness. In Austria, we are the third year of recession. Our economy is struggling with high energy prices and too much red tape. Instead of making the best rules, the EU must again make the best products. Especially when our transatlantic relations are being put to the test, Europe needs to reinvest into its own strengths and work on its strategic autonomy. Because for far too long have we outsourced our security to the USA, our energy supply to Russia, and our prosperity to China. The new initiatives taken by the European Commission to reduce these dependencies are going in the right direction. The competitiveness compass key initiatives to strengthen our European defense industries or new free trade negotiations with India and the United Arab Emirates, to mention but a few. I am confident that we will succeed with important EPP members in central positions, especially Ursula von der Leyen as President of the European Commission and Manfred Weber as President of the EPP. And with Friedrich Merz, the right man will soon be leading Germany, because a strong Germany will be good for Europe. Dear friends, times are indeed challenging, but also full of opportunities. I always say, never waste a good crisis. And this is what we should do. Let's join forces and turn this crisis into an opportunity. Especially when times are rough, it is the European People's Party that needs to take responsibility and turn the tide. Together we will lead Europe through these turbulent times. Thank you for your attention.
Closing this block of interventions, I call to the stage the candidate Chancellor, Mr. Friedrich Merz. Welcome him.
Dear Manfred, dear Ursula, dear Roberta, members of the EPP, friends and colleagues, many thanks for your warm welcome and many thanks for your hospitality here in Valencia. I'm very happy to be here and hopefully last time as the opposition leader from Germany. We will have our Chancellor elected next Tuesday in Germany's parliament. And the Social Democrats will finalize their vote within their party tonight. And we all hope that we will have their approval tomorrow morning, so the way will be free to elect a new government next week, precisely that time. So, but until then, you have to make your decisions on the presidency of the EPP today and tomorrow, and that's the reason why I would like to advertise first for our candidate, who is our president, Manfred Weber, and who is the deputy, David McAllister, by the way, who is, as far as I can see, the only dual citizen coming from Germany and from the UK. So if we should have an opportunity to have the UK on board of the presidency of the EPP, please vote for David. This is a good idea. Now, dear colleagues, it's less than 11 months after our successful European elections, and we are again gathering today here in Valencia. A lot has happened in those 11 months. The Russian aggression against Ukraine is continuing, and the death toll among Ukrainians continue to rise. I would like to say the message. Our message will and has to be very clear. If other nations and other countries question the values of national sovereignty and the inviolability of borders, of freedom and of democracy, we will stand even more strongly for these values. And at the same time, a new US president has been elected to the White House, putting our important transatlantic alliance to a test, both in terms of security and defense, but also when it comes to trade and more generally the cohesion of the so-called West. This, dear friends, is why I'm convinced that this is the hour of Europe, more precisely the European Union. The challenges we are faced with surpass our ability to deal with them alone on a national level. For our freedom, for the future of our societies, we have to act together more than ever before in taking common positions and speaking with one voice, especially by organizing our defense in a way that is much more effective and that raises our defense capabilities to a new level. That means we must be pragmatic when it comes to military procurement, and we have to agree on joint development in new projects and ramp up production fast. All this should happen within the framework of NATO, our Western alliance, but we Europeans must also be able to defend ourselves better than in the past. This is not optional. This is a precondition for preserving freedom and peace on our European continent. I know that many of you expect more German leadership than we have seen in the last years, both in the EU and on international level. Next week, as I said, Germany will have a new government. And I tell you, we will and we have to invest a lot of energy more into moving Europe forward. And as I told you in Bucharest last year and in Rotterdam the year before, I'm decided to take more initiatives, to take more time on international affairs and especially on European affairs together with you. And in this respect, I'm very proud to announce that for the first time in more than 60 years, my party, the Christian Democrats in Germany, will have the Foreign Office in our government. In addition to the issue of defense, we are facing other challenges. And, dear colleagues, let's not underestimate them. The US tariffs threaten to plunge the world into a new age of protectionism. Therefore, we must revitalize the conviction that free trade with the world carries benefits for all. Economy and trade are not zero-sum games. More than ever, we should conclude ambitious and comprehensive trade agreements. And I would like to say from this place, full support to you, Ursula, and your Commission, to all your efforts to come to more free trade agreements in the world. Full support from our future German government. And please, we should not overburden these trade agreements with too many other issues that are not directly trade related. Dear friends, this also requires us to set our priorities straight. At the EPP retreat in January in Berlin, we passed a resolution on substantially reducing the bureaucratic burden on businesses. May I come back to that? We have to find a better balance between fighting climate change, which is necessary more than ever, and protecting the environment on the one hand, and avoiding deindustrialization on the other hand in our countries. And dear friends, this is a very real and serious issue. We will not tackle the enormous challenges ahead with a shrinking economy. We should be ambitious in cutting regulation and relying on market-based instruments such as ETS, implemented by the European Union. So, allow me to be very open on that. Let us fight over regulation on all levels. Frankly, when I read that after we are annoying people with fixed bottle caps or beeping cars, now we will ask people to have their cars checked every year instead of every 2 years. Frankly, are we out of minds? Do we really make the EU more unpopular with such kinds of regulation? This is all over German media actually in the last few days, and that's the reason why I'm telling you, let's not destroy popular vote for our great European Union and our great European project with such nonsense. The last, but certainly not the least, issue I want to mention is migration. With the Return Directive and other legal changes, we are on the right way. We must drastically decrease the number of irregular migrants arriving in our countries. And if those numbers remain high, we have to discuss additional measures. Laws can be changed, and we should not be afraid of this if necessary. Dear friends, the EPP now today is the strongest political force in Europe, in the Council, in the European Parliament, and in the Commission. That means our leadership is more important than ever before. Let's show this leadership for the entire European Union, for the people in our countries. And from my perspective, in my future government, you can count on us. We will be ready to deliver, and we will be ready. We will be ready to form one of the governments in Germany, which will be one of the most strongest European supporters you have ever seen from my country. Many thanks and good luck to all of you.
Thank you very much for your words, Mr. Merz, because one of the most rewarding aspects of gatherings like this is the chance to listen to many experts, many policymakers, their perspectives, their experience, their insights, make this kind of Congress so valuable. And now it comes my second special time at this Congress, because I give the floor to a man who is a crucial Spanish politician whom Spain needs at this moment. He's our present, he's our future, and I'm sure very soon he will be our next president of Spain. So please welcome, well, he has a little bit, well, a flaw like me. He's from Galicia, so he has a very weird sense of humor, and this is a flaw. But please welcome, with a big round of applause, the president of Partido Popular and co-host by this Congress, Alberto Núñez Feijóo.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the city of Valencia. Welcome to the Comunitat of Valencia, and welcome to one of the oldest nations of the world. Welcome to Spain. Apologies that I couldn't speak to you until now, but this is also what the European People's Party is. The European People's Party has a commitment to prioritize people over and above ourselves. to put their needs above ours. And that's something we should do always. We are starting to understand the most dramatic circumstances of the blackout that our country suffered. We've started to understand this over the last hours, and I'd like to send out all of my wishes to the people who died. You will understand, colleagues, that it was my duty, and I'm sure that you will understand the reason for my delay in arriving at the Congress. President Manfred, dear colleagues, dear Vice President of the European People's Party who brought us to this Congress, dear President of the Commission, dear President of the Parliament, dear Chancellors of Germany and Austria, I'd like to congratulate both Chancellors, and I'd like to congratulate my colleagues in the opposition and our Chancellor of Germany. Well, it's just a few more days as the opposition, but as you will understand, having listened to the Chancellor of Germany, the opposition is a place where you reflect, it's a place where you learn, and it's a place where you carry out useful politics. And that's why the Chancellor of Germany, thus far, the opposition will be the best Chancellor that Germany will have in the next decades. So congratulations, Merz, congratulations. I'd also like to thank you for staying in Spain, despite yesterday's blackout, despite the uncertainty that was generated, despite everything. And I really express my thanks to you from the bottom of my heart as a Spaniard. Thank you to all of the prime ministers. Thank you to the presidents of government. Thank you to the vice presidents and the commissioners of the European Union. Thank you very much for continuing to trust in Spain. You've offered us help. You've offered us information. You've been by our side always. Spain deserves this. This is what this great nation deserves. But particularly, all Spaniards deserve this. All Spaniards that yesterday, in the middle of a situation of chaos and uncertainty, came back and showed a lesson, gave a lesson of civil responsibility, exemplary behavior. We're very, very proud of all Spaniards in the way in which they reacted, the way in which they behaved facing this situation. The last hours, I know that you've sent in your support and your solidarity, but you've also asked me a lot of questions. What happened? What happened exactly? Could this happen again? And I would like to give you answers to these questions, but I can't do this. And I can't do this because the official information that we currently have is not information that will clarify the situation nor give us any answers. I'm convinced that we will know everything, that the government of Spain will need to give explanations, the explanations that they owe to citizens, but also that they owe to all of Europe, and that we will find out what the vulnerabilities there are that we absolutely will have to fight against to ensure that this country will never again collapse like it did over the past hours. Of course, and once again, I thank you very much for all of the help you're going to give us in this task, because the participation independently of European authorities will be key to understand the truth. We all know that what happened cannot be looked at as just an anecdote of little relevance. No, absolutely not. It is incredibly serious in and of itself, and it's critical, because this has happened at a crucial moment for the European Union and for the continent, a moment in which we can't underestimate the vulnerability that has been exposed, with the challenge of defense of energy sovereignty and with strategic autonomy. It is absolutely critical for us to know and understand that yesterday the fourth economy of the euro was paralyzed, when something that we thought would be impossible. And who is going to take responsibility for this? And above and beyond this, what decisions are going to be taken to ensure that our nation is protected in the future? One of our collective challenges is to design a solid Europe, an autonomous Europe, a competitive Europe. And I'm committed to doing this. I'm committed, and I take this commitment here in front of you, in front of European prime ministers. I give my commitment here in front of the #1 European party, the European People's Party, as a Spaniard and as here facing all European citizens. We are going to work tirelessly to ensure that Spain, once again, is a trustworthy country inside and outside our borders. And I commit to the fact that we will build a strong Spain to be able to have an even stronger Europe. And so, to finalize this, I would say to you once again, thank you. Tomorrow we will continue to work, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your words, Mr. Núñez de Feijóo. And now, ladies and gentlemen, dear delegates, it's now another special moment. It's my privilege to welcome a woman whose remarkable commitment, strong leadership, ambition for Europe's future continue to inspire all of us. I admire her, and join me in giving her a warm and enthusiastic welcome with a big round of applause. Mr. Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission.
Thank you very much, my dear friends. Dear Manfred, dear EPP family, it's wonderful to be here today, and a very special thank you to you, Alberto Feijóo, for your amazing hospitality. You have organized this incredible Congress at a really important time. And allow me also to say a word to yesterday's events. Yesterday, citizens across Spain and Portugal and parts of France faced an unprecedented power outage. And I would like to commend them for the calm and the civility that they have displayed in the midst of this most challenging blackout. They've shown collective responsibility. They've shown solidarity with the people that suddenly found themselves unable to go home. And let me in particular thank the police, the firefighters, the traffic controllers. In all countries, they've been working under immense pressure to protect the citizens and to maintain the order. Gracias e obrigada a todos. This EPP Congress is a reunion of friends, and I particularly want to pay tribute to my dear friend Manfred. Manfred, you are known as an outstanding leader. Last summer, it was an honor and it was a pleasure to hit the campaign trail with you. And my friends, look at what we have achieved together. We scored a resounding victory in the European elections. We are by far the largest group in the European Parliament. Roberta's leadership won her a second well-deserved mandate. And we have one of the largest EPP teams ever in the European Commission, and it's great to see so many of you here today. Dear Manfred, you have made EPP strong. And a strong EPP means a strong Europe. So you have my full support to lead us for another term as president of EPP. And let me also thank you for choosing Dolores Montserrat as candidate for the Secretary General. Dear Dolores, thank you for putting so much passion in everything you do. You're a great choice to be the first woman Secretary General of our party. And I think Roberta will agree with me when I say other parties speak of gender balance. We, EPP, we deliver on it. And dear friends, just over a year ago, I stood in front of you in Bucharest to ask for your support. And I remember sharing with you the lesson of my father, that Europe is more than a market. Europe is more than a set of institutions. Europe is more than a union. Europe is our home. And our first mission is to protect the place we call home. It is about prosperity. It is about security. It is about democracy. And this is what we as EPP have promised to the people of Europe. And they have entrusted on us to deliver on this promise, because they know leadership that is equivalent with EPP. As we've shown from Donald Tusk in Poland, to Kyriakos Mitsotakis in Greece, from Petteri Orpo in Finland, to Andrei Plenković in Croatia, from Nikos Christodoulides in Cyprus, to Ulf Kristersson in Sweden, from Luis Montenegro in Portugal to Luc Frieden in Luxembourg, from Ivica Silinia in Latvia to Christian Stocker, we just heard him, in Austria, from Zelja Skov-Rosen in Bulgaria to Ili Boloyan in Romania, and in a few days, Friedrich Merz in Germany will join us. And my friends, all of you here, from ministers to mayors, from European Parliament to local government, you know the simple truth. With greater power comes greater responsibility. And my friends, today is also the day to say again, very clearly, we are willing to take on this responsibility. EPP means leadership, and we will deliver for Europe on all levels. That's our promise. And my friends, our victory last year belongs to all of you. But we also know that election day is never a finish line. It's the moment to hit the ground running. And this is what we've done from day one on. In our difficult times, nothing can be taken for granted. For decades, free trade has been a driver of global prosperity. It has lifted billions out of poverty and sustained the livelihood of millions of European families. Now, global markets are shaken by the unpredictable tariff policy of the US administration. US tariffs on the rest of the world are at their highest in a century. The IMF issued a stark warning last week, and that is no surprise, because tariffs are like taxes. They hurt consumers and business alike. They affect Wall Street as well as Main Street. Millions of citizens will face higher grocery bills. Medicines will cost more. Transportation will cost more. Inflation will go up. And this is hurting, in particular, the most vulnerable citizens. Business, small and big, suffer from day one. Greater uncertainty, disruption of supply chains, burdensome bureaucracy. My friends, We cannot and we will not allow this to happen. We have to double down on our hallmark policies of open markets, of win-win trade and investment partnership, and of free and fair trade. But in every crisis, and Christian Stocker, you said it, in every crisis there's also an opportunity. Not only is our single market the largest in the world because of its openness to the world that is so much greater than that of the United States and China, but we are also world champion in export to GDP. So our companies need the global markets. And in this moment of crisis, it pays off that Europe is reliable and predictable. We have already the largest network of free trade agreements with 76 countries around the world. Now the world of trade is turning towards us. And Friedrich, you mentioned it. Since last year, we've concluded a new wave of trade deals from Mercosur to Mexico to Switzerland. We're working with India and Indonesia, with the Emirates and Thailand, the Philippines and Malaysia and the Pacific. They all want to deal with us because we are fair, we are reliable, and we play by the rules. So, my friends, let's stay the course, cool-headed and united, because that's who we are and that's the European way of trade. Let's stick to that. But the key to our prosperity is to put our own house in order and to make business easy right here in Europe. Our single market is a safe harbor for European businesses, a place where they can grow strong before they set sails on global markets. But we've discussed here today, too, the vitality of the single market is held back by too many national barriers, too much fragmentation, too much bureaucracy. And that's why we introduce the now famous omnibuses, to simplify and to speed up. I mean, we have so many opportunities, we have to grasp them now. And take just a digital startup in Europe, a digital startup that wants to scale up in the European single market. Instead of having one single rule to deal with across the European Union, this digital startup is facing across all member states over 270 national regulators active in digital networks. This is unbearable. That fragmentation is the key factor why we are falling behind. If we remove all obstacles inside our union, we could boost our own GDP as much as 10%. So, my friend, it's time to break the chains. Europe was once the cradle of innovation. We want to be it again. Let's free up European innovation, and let's boost again the entrepreneur spirit of Europe. That is the EPP task we have ahead of us now, and we will deliver, my friends. And this is the moment to stand up also, not only for our strength, but also for our values. We don't invade our neighbors, and we don't punish them. On the contrary, there are 12 countries who absolutely want to become members of the European Union. That's round about 150 million people. In Europe, children can go to good schools independent of their parents' income. Controversial debates at universities are welcome. We consider freedom of science and research as fundamental, not only because it is a core value of us, but also because this is how excellence and innovation thrives. And this is why Europe is open to the best and brightest. This is why we will make proposals to help them choose Europe. Because we want scientists and researchers from all over the world to make Europe their home and to make Europe the home of innovation again. That's the moment to act right now, my friends. It's a very special moment to attract the best and the brightest. But now is the moment to act. Choose Europe. And my friends, we must continue to deliver on what matters to the people of Europe. Food security is key to our overall security. And we must always be grateful to our farmers who provide us with quality food every single day. They are the custodians of our land and our most ancient traditions. But we also know that their job is of key strategic importance. So, their hard work must pay off. Farmers deserve a fair income for the food they produce and a level playing field with global competitors. Last year in Bucharest, we discussed to provide them with better incentives, better rewards for protecting nature, and much less administrative burden. And now, my friends, we have to deliver this, we have to get it done. And from the beginning, I have emphasized that migration is a common European challenge that needs a common European answer. We are following a twofold strategy. First, we have to take control of the numbers of illegal arrivals. It is important that migration does not happen at a faster pace than our communities can keep up with. And to be very clear, we will fulfill our international obligations. We've done it in the past, we do it today, we'll do it tomorrow. But it is us, the Europeans, who decide who is coming to Europe and under what circumstances, and not the smugglers and traffickers. Since the start of this year, illegal border crossings have gone down by 30%. And this shows that our engagement with our southern neighbors delivers. And we will continue this work. And second, we have to implement the Migration Pact and Asylum Pact. We have a new body of law that helps us to put our house in order. Let's focus on doing this. And we need better results on return. My friends, it cannot be that only 20% of those who have a negative asylum decision actually leave Europe. This is why we cannot go on like this. It's way too low, the figure, and we cannot explain it to our citizens. We must do better. And this is why last month we proposed new legislation, because being tough on illegal migration allows us to pave the way for much-needed labor migration, because Europe should always be open to more talent and more skills. And finally, dear friends, security for Europe also means doing our own defense. The threat posed by Russia will not go away. And we know that the American focus will increasingly shift towards other regions. So there is no doubt peace in Europe requires that we take much greater responsibility for our own defense. And already at our Congress in Bucharest, we discussed to turbocharge our defense industrial capacity. But no one could imagine how much we'd achieve in a short span of a year. Up to 800 billion euros of investment are now there for our common defense. All 27 member states are on board. New defense partnership with Norway and soon with the UK. We've done more as EPP for European defence in a single year than in several decades. The EPP has always been the party of European defence. And today we are the party that is delivering on the European Defence Union, my friends. This was the dream of de Gasperi and Schuman and Adenauer. And now their dream is coming to life. And the people of Europe are massively in favor. But we also see that the far left and the far right have always opposed this idea. And now again from the fringes, some are trying to boycott this European awakening. They say Russia is not a threat, and Europe is not the answer. So let me be very clear. Only a strong Europe can protect peace in our continent. And the far right and the far left are not pro-peace. They are just pro-Putin. And we will not allow this to happen. We all have seen how Putin negotiates. We all have seen how Putin negotiates. Just 2 weeks ago, on Palm Sunday, Putin launched ballistic missiles on people going to church. He has proven time and again that he cannot be trusted, and he can only be deterred. For just and lasting peace, we must continue to stand with Ukraine, with more military and financial support, with more pressure on Russia, and yes, with a clear pathway for Ukraine to join our European Union. And our message to Ukraine is very clear. Your freedom is our freedom. Your security is our security. And your future is in our European Union. And my dear friends, we in EPP stand for a democratic Europe, where the people decide and where they are masters of their own future. This has been our guiding light ever since the EPP was born back in 1976. 50 years ago, come next year. That's when our founders joined forces and laid out the first EPP manifesto. The title was Together for a Europe of Free People. 50 years ago. And this is the aspiration that has guided us for half a century. And it must still guide us today. A Europe of free people, free to choose our path, free from fear and oppression, free to shape our European home. That is the soul of the EPP. It was our first motto, it remains our mission and our moral duty. So long live the European People's Party and long live Europe. Thank you so much.
After the awards, thank you very much, Mr. von der Leyen, Ms. von der Leyen. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor and my pleasure to welcome the President of the European Parliament. Her leadership, her vision, and her dedication are truly inspiring. So please, let's welcome with a big round of applause, but louder than me, Miss Roberta Metsola.
Buenas tardes. Querido Alberto.
Good afternoon. Dear Alberto, before starting, I would like to thank you for your courage, for your friendship, and for your leadership. Thank you very much for receiving us here in this beautiful city of Valencia. I was in Spain when the terrible floods back in October took place, and even though I've returned to your country since then, it really is a very special moment for me to be here today and to be able to express my solidarity in person. Thank you to our colleagues from the Partido Popular, to my great friend Dolores, and to Esteban, Manfred, and all of those who have dedicated their time, their efforts to the organization of this year's Congress.
To all the EPP team for bringing us here today. Now, dear friends, listening to Friedrich Merz just now, I was taken back to my first EPP Congress in Berlin in 2001. I was a student then, campaigning for my country to join the European Union, arguing over amendments to resolutions in late-night hotel corridors. It feels like a lifetime ago, but the passion, the drive that I first witnessed then, I can still see shining here today in all of you and in all the young people who are here today at their first EPP Congress. I can tell you now, this will not be your last. These events are personal to me. This political family is personal for me. Since those days in Berlin, we have won together, we have changed together, and we have lost, come back, and we have stuck together. And throughout all that, we have never lost track of our raison d'être, of our drive to make Europe stronger, to protect our way of life, to stand up for our families, for our farmers and our industry. When Europe asks questions of us, when we stand at these cliched, metaphorical crossroads, it is within our values that we find the answers. That is what we do. That is the basis of our political culture. Pragmatic, studied, moderate, principle-based leadership. That is what the EPP taught me. That is what I see personified in Manfred Weber. Dear Manfred, thank you for your drive, for your commitment, your leadership, and for always being there for all of us, no matter how difficult the moment became. Thank you, Manfred. That is what I see in Ursula von der Leyen and our commissioners, who over the years, dear Ursula, you have navigated impossible geopolitical challenges, but you've done it with strength, with grace, and with purpose. Thank you for standing up for us and for Europe. That is what I see every day in our MEPs, who work so hard to deliver a new Europe for our citizens. So to all my colleagues, I thank you. I am so proud and so grateful to be part of our Parliament with all of you, also many of you here today. We had a slogan once that was, "We believe in people." And that really struck with me, because that is at the heart of what we do. It is what I want to say to all those of you who are here from candidate countries, from Ukraine, from the Western Balkans, from Moldova, from Georgia. I know what these congresses mean to all of you in particular, because that is what they meant to me not so long ago. We must be future-driven. There is only one way, and that is forward and together. With the new Parliament, the new Commission, and with our Prime Ministers in the European Council, there is no excuse for us not to deliver. Because the renaissance of Europe is really within our grasp. We just need the resolve, the political courage to make these changes, to show that we are a continent on the rise, to prove that we are open for business, for ideas, for new ways to tackle old problems. This is how we defy the cynics and merchants of gloom. This is how we will keep beating back against those who have already written Europe's obituary. The first step is to understand what happened in the last European elections in June. People went back to basics when they voted. Number one, people want economic security. They want a job, they want a chance to grow and scale up their business, a fair chance to get onto the housing ladder that becomes more and more elusive every year, particularly for younger people. Number two, people want systems that work, that simplify, not complicate, systems they understand, that give them the freedom to live their lives as they choose, and that makes a real difference to them. Number three, people want safety and security. They want their children to be able to walk in the street without fear. This is the kind of peace of mind that would allow them to sleep a little bit easier. I can tell you, as a mother of 4 children, that is what I would like to. It is not too much to ask, and it is not too much to deliver. And I can assure you that in the European Parliament, and with all the MEPs who are here today, we are committed to getting it right during this legislature. Over the past months, since the Parliament voted for the new Commission, we have listened, we have prepared, and we have responded. For years, we have heard the same old story, that Europe is too slow, Europe is too divided, Europe is too bureaucratic. But my friends, I'm here to tell you that I know that Europe is strong, Europe is proud, and Europe will grow from strength to strength. Just look at how far we came on our collective security and defense. It is our family that is leading the way here. Poland, Latvia, Greece, Finland, Romania. These are the EU countries investing the largest share of their GDP into strengthening our security structures. Because this isn't just about reacting when a crisis erupts. It is about having the foresight and the courage to take the kind of measures needed to prevent it from happening. Russia's illegal war on Ukraine brought that horrifically home to us. We cannot waver in our support. We must keep standing with our friends in Ukraine until a just and lasting peace is secured.
not out of altruism, but out of a duty to keep our people safe, out of our responsibility to make sure that we help secure a real peace, peace with justice, peace with dignity, peace with integrity, and based on the ultimate principle of nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. From an economic standpoint, we are also listening. Over the past few months, I have met with business owners from all walks of life, from big industrial giants to smaller family-run enterprises. They all say the same thing. They just want a chance to compete. And here, Europe's answer should be clear, unambiguous, and resolute. We have your back. We will stand up for our businesses, our industry, and our families. This is what the European Parliament is doing. Not just with words, but with action. Earlier this month, we voted to postpone the dates of application of certain reporting requirements, the so-called stop-the-clock mechanism. We did this in record time. It is going to give businesses so much needed breathing space, less time buried in paperwork, more time turning ideas into action. Now, our simplification agenda and actions are, of course, very good first steps. But now comes the difficult part, because the challenge isn't only about streamlining regulations. It is about making sure our commitments match people's expectations. It is about having the courage to go beyond papering over the cracks. Last year, we saw the highest voter turnout in the European elections in 30 years. If there's one thing that I learned as I saw the results coming in, is that people do care, that people believe in Europe, that they want to believe that this union of ours still has purpose, direction, and the power to improve their lives. And it is up to us to give them that reason, to show them that the values we talk so often about aren't just lofty ideas in old treaties or easy sound bites, but that it is precisely because of them that we are able to make people's lives easier, better, fairer, safer, even if that means taking the painful decisions that we know are necessary. That is what leadership demands and what this moment calls for. Dear friends, what Europe stands for, what we symbolize in Europe and across the world, matters more than ever. Our European way will deliver. Yes, we might be a little bit more boring than some of our counterparts. Our systems may be a little bit more predictable. But in politics and in achieving results, that is not a bad thing. We are a work in progress. The idea that Europe is not perfect, but we have shown what we can do. We have shown that we can find the political will to tackle generational issues that have kept our union from reaching its full potential. And we will do that again with our competitiveness drive, our simplification agenda, and our urgent need to deliver on security and defense. Our work must speak to people's lived realities, including the too many forgotten voters out there, to the young people who feel disillusioned with politics and consume news through a different lens, to the elderly who struggle with the pace of change and who still feel left behind, to mid-income Europeans for whom it is still too hard to reach the end of the month. Because being the party of this organization, being part of the People's Party means being on their side, always. It is also time to move forward with real integration in our defense, energy, telecoms, and financial markets. Because in a world of growing geopolitical rivals and economic giants focused on their own people, industries, and businesses, we need to recognize that while individually we are small, together we are a force to be reckoned with. Just look at the United States response. Now, I do not want to be misinterpreted. I will always, always stand for free and fair trade. Tariffs benefit no one. But I think it is important to recognize that we have managed to send a strong and united message and underlined that the less barriers we create, the more prosperous our peoples will be. So, of course, Europe will act to protect its workforce and defend its interests. Of course, what we are really going forward and what we really need to go forward is more dialogue and not more tension. That is what we must use this 90-day pause for. We can create a win-win for all. The same applies in the context of forging a new, closer relationship with allies like the United Kingdom and Canada. Spain and Portugal's ties to Latin America give Europe a unique ability to speak to the world and listen in a manner that enables common understanding and protects multilateralism. The times we are living in today mean that we need to get used to doing things differently, to adapting, to challenging perceptions. So let us not be afraid to take the next steps that we know are necessary. Progress doesn't wait for politicians to feel ready. It doesn't wait for comfort zones to catch up. One person described the age we are living in now, with artificial intelligence in particular, as akin to the revolution that took place in the 19th century, when the world moved from an economy based on agriculture to one based on industry. It is that big, that transformative, and that critical. And it's already happening. So we must be ready to face the inevitable pressure in the confrontation between autocratic AI and democratic AI. I want Europe to lead in this space, and I know that means giving our businesses, our researchers, our engineers, our coders, and our patent holders the room and the support that they need to compete, to innovate, and to grow. Dear friends, I will conclude by thinking back to last weekend. Like many of you, I had the honor of being in Rome last Saturday to attend the funeral of His Holiness Pope Francis. In remembering his extraordinary life and legacy, I would like to quote one of his most powerful teachings. If we want security, let us give security. If we want life, let us give life. If we want opportunities, let us provide opportunities. The yardstick we use for others will be the yardstick which time will use for us. Let that be our guide. Gracias, España. Viva Europa.
Thank you, Spain, and long live Europe.
Ladies and gentlemen, President von der Leyen and President Metsola underline the importance of the European unity and its strength in these challenging times. Seeing you all here together and having the same feeling of being together at Valencia confirms how strong and central the EPP's role is in keeping Europe together. For us, keeping Europe together is more than a political job. It's not just a commitment we made when we entered into this. For us, keeping Europe together is the DNA of our political party. It's who we are. It's about being part of the same family. It's about coordinating and aligning. It's about to be a true and modern European political party. One man has submitted his application to be leading this party in the coming years. A man who has already led our party over the past 2 years. A man who wrote an historical election success with your party, being together with you. This man is on the stage, so I'd like to welcome, with a big round of applause, Mr. Manfred Weber.
Dear friends, the delegates, dear EPP family, I think, first of all, in the name of all of you, let me thank again our Spanish friends, our Spanish hosts, Alberto, the front row, but also Dolores and Esteban, for hosting us, for inviting us here to Valencia. España siempre ha estado.
Spain has always been in the hearts of Europe, and today the heart of Europe is beating here in Valencia.
And, dear friends, it's not just the great Spanish culture, the sun, the food, it's really that we are among winners. I just want to remind all of us from all over Europe that since Alberto is president of Partido Popular, they won all elections from the national to the European elections. In last year, European elections, Partido Popular doubled the seats in the European Parliament, and soon Alberto will be Prime Minister of Spain. I'm sure about this. Congratulations to this. Dear friends, last time when we met for an electoral congress, it was in Rotterdam. Some of you mentioned this already, 2022. 3 years ago, you elected me as a successor of Donald Tusk. And let's be honest, the EPP was in a defensive situation. The left spoke about a social democrat decade. The Greens were setting the agenda. Macron and the new liberals said already that the movements are the future and the parties are the old stuff. We were in opposition in 19 countries in Europe. Numerous commentators had already declared the political end of Christian democracy in Europe. Rotterdam was for us as EPP a historic turning point. And, dear colleagues, we stood up. We did it the EPP way. We were listening, we were unifying, we were delivering, and you know me, never in an ego show, always in a team approach, in a family perspective. The EPP method paid off finally. Rotterdam, 8 prime ministers and presidents, council members, and today in Valencia, 13 prime ministers of the EPP. The socialists have 3, the liberals have 3, and EPP have half of the council. Let's be proud about what we achieved in the last 3 years, dear friends. And Roberta and Ursula did it already, but let's enjoy also, from my point of view, for a few seconds again, the last 3 years. Remember our longest-serving colleagues on the council table. Kyriakos Mitsotakis and Andrei Plenković have been re-elected 3 times and doing a great job for their country. Congratulations to this. The president of Cyprus, Nikos Christodoulides, we called each other after his victory, and then he committed, yes, I am EPP and I'm proud about this. Anita, you agreed on this principle to do so. Luc Frieden won in Luxembourg. We have Kerpati under Boyko's leadership strong in Bulgaria, back in the government there. We won the north of Europe, so the icebreaker was Ulf Kristersson. And then Petri Orpo followed. We have Selina Ivica. And soon Simon Harris in Ireland will follow as Taoiseach. Dear friends, in several countries currently led by the EPP, we are in campaign in this moment of time. And we are crossing fingers. For example, for our Portuguese colleagues. Portugal deserves stability, and Luis Montenegro is a man who can provide this stability. And dear friends, Romania, for us as EPP, an important country. I want to thank Klaus Johannes for his service, and now we are crossing the fingers for Crin Antinescu to become the next president of Romania. All the best for our campaigners there. Today we have already listened to the new Chancellor of Austria, and Christian, I want to thank you, because in our talks over Christmas break, when you did the negotiations, I was sure that the ÖVP will defend our principles as EPP in the negotiations, and you are the guarantor that Austria is embedded in a pro-European approach, thank you for this, as also the next Chancellor of Germany will do so. So Friedrich Merz, congratulations and all the best for next week in the German Bundestag. Dear colleagues, in Belgium, in Czech Republic, in France, I want to pay respect to Michel Barnier, who showed the French people how a good government should look like. And I want to also thank Antonio Tajani in Italy. He is a guarantor for a pro-European stable development of Italy. Dear colleagues, I cannot mention all 50 EPP parties and 16 associated parties. We are a strong family, but allow me to express only from two perspectives additional successes. One perspective is the external one. Dear colleagues, we are governing also in Switzerland with Gerhard Pfister. We are strong in the Western Balkan countries, in a lot of regions there. And soon Erna Solberg, here in front of me, has a good chance to become again Prime Minister of Norway. So we are also outside of the European Union extremely strong, and we are proud about this. And two successes are really close to me personally, dear friends. Of the last 3 years, I want to mention and I want to remind us about what Donald Tusk told us 3 years ago. He was asking us, shall I go back home to Poland? Shall I pick up the fight against PiS and Kaczynski? And he did so. And he brought Poland back as a sovereign, strong country inside of our proud European Union. Thank you to Donald Tusk. And soon Rafał Trzaskowski will become president, and they will finalize their mission in Poland. And finally, to mention those who are really close to me personally, dear colleagues, a front-line country in the fight against Russian propaganda, developing a small and weakened country towards a proud European modern country. You know probably from whom I speak. I speak about Moldova, and I want to congratulate the amazing success story of Maia Sandu as re-elected president of Moldova. Congratulations to your success story, and all friends in Moldova. Dear colleagues, we made it, we did it. That's EPP at its best. And based on these national success stories, we also won impressively the European elections 2024. 1 year ago in Bucharest, we told people we are ready. We are ready. We voted for our manifesto based on our first item, that is listening. Listening to farmers, to entrepreneurs, to students, to pensioners, to all parts of our society. And for us, European democracy does not start in artificial citizens' forums, but right here in this Congress hall, where people and politicians from all over Europe come together. I want to mention our associations, YEP, the Seniors Union, our women's organization, the workers, the farmers, and many more. We are proud about this contribution. And I also want to mention our associations in the OSCE, the Parliamentarian Assembly, in OSCE, in the Council of Europe, in NATO. And Sari, I want to mention especially our mayors, because we are proud to be the Mayors' Party of Europe. The Committee of Regions plays a special role. Congratulations to all the colleagues there in this region. Dear colleagues, together with the whole presidency, and I'm proud about this team that we worked together the last 3 years. We delivered on content with our program. And after listening, not being populistic, but showing leadership, giving true answers, and defining the main ideas for tomorrow. Security, prosperity, and democracy were the 3 pillars of our electoral manifesto. And we secured as EPP, just to remind everyone, a democratic Europe. We stick to the lead candidate concept. Our lead candidate, Ursula von der Leyen, delivered a great and successful campaign. And just to remind everyone, 50 million people in Europe voted for us as European People's Party. Ursula von der Leyen convinced she has a strong mandate to lead in the future of Europe, and that's why we are so proud that she is re-elected as President of the European Commission. Thank you, Ursula, for what you did. And based on this mandate, also we secured the re-election of Roberta Metsola. Roberta, you stand for a new generation. You stand also for the modern way of doing EPP politics. Roberta, you should know your party is proud to having you in the lead of Europe. Congratulations to Roberta Metsola. And by the way, Ursula said it already, but I have to repeat it. By the way, 2 female presidents of the European institutions, one from the biggest country and one from the smallest country. That's also EPP at its best, dear friends. Let's be proud about this. The EPP group in the European Parliament counts today 188 colleagues. We are the only centre party who won in the last European elections. And don't forget, not only because we won on national level with our EPP parties, because also I convinced further parties to join our family. I want to tell you that the expansion strategy we defined at the beginning 3 years ago worked. New colleagues from Denmark, from the Netherlands, from Czech Republic, they joined the EPP group in the European Parliament, some more liberal, some more conservative colleagues, today all of them EPP family. And I remember Friday after the European elections last year, it's the 14th of June, around 30% of Hungarian people voted for a new movement. It was a surprise, it was a success. The TISA party in Hungary was born, and I traveled to Budapest. I met Peter Magyar. You know, they had no party structure at all. We met in a business hotel in Budapest. And I told him the EPP is the party of Europe. The EPP is the party of rule of law. And your 7 MEPs elected in Hungary must join the EPP family. And yes, they joined the EPP family. And I tell you, in spring next year, the TISA party will end the politics of corruption in Hungary. Orbán will retire, and Peter Magyar will be the new face of Hungary in the EPP family. Yes, dear colleagues, we won. And after winning, as expressed already by several speakers today, it's about delivering. And that's probably the key message of Valencia. We work hard, we deliver, EPP is trustworthy. That is what we are expressing, that is what we are telling to people. Without us, dear friends, Europe would have followed the Greens in their fight against the single market and modern trade agreements like CETA. Imagine for a second standalone in Trump's world without any alternative trade agreements. We are the ones saving European economies. Without us, where would our industry and our jobs be if we would have followed the ideologically driven climate policy by Franz Timmermans? To protect climate is a key challenge for our generation, but we make climate policy in creating jobs, dear friends. Without us, what kind of landslide would the populists have won in the last European elections if we would have not changed the course on migration policy? 1 year ago, we finalized the Migration Pact. We signed agreements with Egypt and Tunisia. And, if needed, we as EPP were ready to build up fences in Finland, in Poland, in Greece, to stop instrumentalization of migration, dear friends. We reduced the number of illegal migrants by around 50%, And that's the method to fight against populists in Europe, to deliver on content. And most importantly, when it is about the question, without us, dear colleagues, war in Ukraine. Where would Europe's security be now without our contribution? Sanctions against the brutal dictatorship of Putin, our humanitarian assistance for our Ukrainian friends, arms supplies, an EU perspective, a clear EU perspective for Ukraine to join our union. Dear colleagues, we did it. Orban, Le Pen and Weidel are surrendering European interests.